So tell me everything.
Great week. That's good news.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff happening this week, which is about time. I didn't get much for, I did get through, first off, I got through the entire book and got all my comments. That's what I sent to you. And I mean, there's a lot more to do. These words, I was reading it, thinking this. And if we
Which
need to
book
talk about
did you
next steps,
read?
how to,
Because I did a second book that I sent you
yeah, I know.
on
Yeah,
Tuesday.
I did Senior Organization anew. So the original one you sent,
Okay, so
I was already done with that. I was already done because I did it literally did it last Saturday because I said,
okay.
okay, I'm not going to have time this week, so we can easily incorporate it over the other one, but just
Yeah,
needed to figure
because
out that order.
I did that video and it showed I thought a good thesis for the book about remember you were talking about the workaround and we got so we took that whole transcript and just massaged it. And I thought it
Mm,
was a pretty good thesis, pretty original, you
okay,
between the three of us. But so take a look at that. And
so I will look at
the
that
little
here
video, I
later
thought,
today,
like,
tomorrow.
dang, that's like interesting. But then what I found is in working with this kind of methodology, it's real important to put our stuff in verbatim, like that I'm saying this is how I use Buja Day, this is how I use it in Teams, this is what it's about, da da da. And then I talk about whatever I'm doing, and Tanya gives some examples. But they took those two stories I did about the hospital and they just
Yeah,
ran with it, But we don't want it to look like an AI produced book. We want it to
exactly.
have our individual voices. So the back and forth is good, but the danger is over relying on the AI. It becomes the AI will look better than our voice, but then people will say, this is AI. That's not a real Doug. I want the real Doug.
Yeah, no,
So,
and I've seen the same thing when I've been writing. I'll put stuff in, it changes, particularly key words or phrases
oh yeah.
that we use to really, those are really thoughtful words or phrases we use
Yep.
to convey something. It wasn't like it just came out and, oh, let's just use this, because you want to be consistent in the language you use so that people
Yeah.
understand. So I'm often changing that all the time in AI, but there's always good. I mean, if you use it for just kind of, oh, I didn't think of that. Oh, and that's interesting. Let me kind of work that. But then it becomes, I only use it really for thoughts. I actually end up changing a lot of the words that are produced there just to be be
Good.
authentic, I guess is.
Good.
Yeah, so I'm in that same kind of mind. I've used it enough, certainly used it enough to realize it's nice for kind of brainstorming. Did I miss something? But let me get our original thought across.
I agree. So we're in agreement. So tell me some of the things that you recall, or just talk off the top of your head. What
Well,
is this
heck,
doing for Vuja Day? How can we better position it? What do you think the main themes could be? Or what's exciting to you? If it's not exciting to you, it's not going to be exciting to anybody else.
no. I mean, I was right. I had, of course, seen your read some of your work before, but this was really the first full go through for me. So, first off, my comment last week was you're brilliant, not Monty, but you are brilliant. David's brilliant
Oh, well, I don't know
because
about that, but thank you. I'll try to live up to half of that.
no, well, sorry, we all have our moments. I don't expect it every second of the day. I certainly can't give it every second day, but every once in a while, we come up with a pretty good idea. And
Yeah.
so I looked at going through your book. I thought the concepts were broadly structured well. I even within each chapter there was that they were structured well. There's some inconsistencies between chapters, so those where I had some questions, and that's normal. I mean, these are first drafts and all that, so there's always that.
Yeah.
Um,
That always
and
happens.
but I mean, as I was going through, so I threw on my process cap and said, okay, to make it easier on the reader, each chapter has and 90% of it's there. But as I was bringing Vujade stuff in, I realized, okay, we don't have an example of Vujade in this chapter and things like
No,
that.
we
So,
don't.
so I was kind of, as I looked at the previous version of the book, not the newest one, that's kind of what I was focused on. Um, I definitely, so that was one thing. One of the more exciting things I saw was if through the exercises in that, if we can get this into Cabo
Yeah,
and integrate it with Vujade, and I'm not against old school, just write it down, have a sheet to work on. Those are always great because some people prefer that and it's easier for them to put their thoughts together. But if we can take these exercises and get them into basically a new app that interacts nicely with Cabo,
right.
and there'll be steps to it. I think it would be incredibly powerful because then you're mixing both. You're seeing it as you're doing your work. You can see the points there. You can capture all the stories you're telling. Every exercise. I'm just going to jump to one here. I got to get down a bit. So, like I
I
said,
agree. I
tons of.
think you're on the right track. That's good.
I really the other thing that really the third thing that really struck me is I really love the application. So, I mean, I know in the first write up you did, you had a lot on the military, and I thought that's really powerful. I could see people in the military really getting, I could see people, because there's always interest in the military leadership model.
Yeah.
And I could see people really learning from that. As I thought about the other applications, I thought it would be almost nice to have those, we talked about those threads. So whether
Yeah.
it's a family, it's spiritual, it's organizational, we can continue to highlight more. I thought it means a lot more examples,
Yeah, I
but
think last week we got two good hospital examples, and I think that could be a chapter. And then a corporate example, the missile range example, that went over pretty well,
yeah, that did.
AI wise. And then, so you guys have some examples. You may not, maybe you just want to stay in the technology. This is the technology, this is a tool. Here's how it works with the examples Tanya and I come up with. I don't know. Wherever you guys are at is
I, I'm I'm
okay.
I'm okay adding in examples there. I think my process. So once again, when I'm writing, I always tend to have to first build out the process structure. So
Good.
I know so every chapter has roughly, or at least mostly, the same format, and that we're writing in the same style. That's
Yeah.
just a way I can just write effectively. Because we've got the broad strokes and the concepts and all that. Once you get through that, then it's kind of getting down to the nuts and bolts of it. So those were the three big things. I mean, there were many other things that I've have comments on. Um,
Sure. Those
I
are
guess the
great. Thank
question
you.
what are you yeah no and what are your thoughts
Well, and
since you
there's a
produced
couple
the
ways
thing on
to
Tuesday? We have
structure a best-selling book, I think. And one is to have a really good story, a case, but a really worked out, really fleshed out, kind of some emotion, some blockages, some attempts at solution. So just working that out in each chapter. And then it's really nice, the seven principles of something or other is good.
yeah
If it's about a central theme, whatever that might be, like the workaround, people get into workaround and they're not into their true self, and I was doing some reading this morning. The idea that we have our ego self, we're playing the role in culture, and our ego wants to play that role
yeah
to the hilt and have some control, have some acknowledgement, king of the hill, or whatever your ego it is. But then we have an alter ego, and then maybe that's not a great word, but we call it the true self, or getting in touch with your higher self or something. And then that one you want to like remove the ego, kind of. But Jung says accept your own shadow side, accept that you do have an ego, David. you know, and the ego can get in the way. Like when I'm arguing with Grace Ann, I'll notice, okay, my ego's up again. I'm feeling threatened that none of my ideas are clicking. She's going to go to some expert about the tires, and I think the tires are fine. She has to go to the tire store and have them checked anyway. I'm going like,
Hmm.
okay, that's her process. She runs the bank. She's making us like we don't need to worry about money. So why do I care if she wants to buy brand new tires? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? My ego gets in the way. And then how long does it take my ego to calm down and then let my true self come in and say, okay, yeah, cooperation. Am I, would I rather be loving or right? Well, obviously I'm right,
Yeah.
but do I want to be loving and collaborative? What is that tire more important than your relationship? Do you want to get burnt meals from now on? What's the deal here, David? You know what I mean? So there's this
Yeah.
conversation. I don't know how your brain is, but there's this ongoing conversation I'm having, and I'll go like, whose voice is this now? Is that my dad's voice again? Or is that my mom's blame and shame voice, or is that my ego voice, or is that my true self? And it's really hard to sort that out. Um, in terms
In the
of
moment,
in the moment,
particularly.
yeah, and it's that's why I like meditation, whatever your practice is, fine. But it's I have to clear the loud voices out of the head, because I know that that's not my true self voice. My true self is loving and very, very. I what was the theme this week with Kent's brother? So,
Yeah.
um,
I'm
the
sadly I have to
love
go put out
is
a fire.
love is truth and truth is love. So a loving voice is not shouting at you. You
Well,
know, a loving
it's
voice is not blaming,
interesting.
shaming you. You know what I mean? That's not
You
loving.
know,
Go.
it's interesting as you talk about the voices in your head. And I used to have those much more when I was younger. It's not that I don't have voices, but I don't often have competing. I've kind of built in throughout and just learned how to kind of take those voices, set them aside, and then reflect at them in an
Oh,
appropriate
nice.
moment.
Nice.
But that's I see that especially when I think of my partner Veronica. She's extremely extroverted like you are,
Oh,
and so I see her also fight those voices as well. And so I don't. Once again, hypothesis. Definitely don't have facts in this, but I'm just wondering. Is this more of an extroverted challenge than an introverted? Because
I don't know.
introverts tend to be
That's
more
interesting.
reflective.
That's interesting. Because I think a lot of what you said last time in Vuja Day was give your introverts a chance to talk. Let them process it. It takes overnight. You outcome people, wanting that instant fix, and that's
Well,
ego
I don't know if it's outcome or just introvert extrovert more
or
characteristic. I
extrovert,
see it in her as well. Yeah, because I mean, there's this. The extrovert is thinking out loud. They have lots of voices in there. They want to get
Yeah,
those voices out because it's the way to process. And so I know she finds it much harder to hold back on saying things and reflecting. I mean, she does it. Obviously, everyone does. But for
right.
me, it's easy just to kind of sit there, soak it all in. And she says, "What do you think?" And I said, "I don't know. Let me think about it tonight." She gets very frustrated by that, or she at least used to. Now she understands it. But
Oh,
she's
well,
much better at giving me a moment to kind of. I'm going to need till tomorrow or a couple of days to really think about it because it doesn't. The magic doesn't really come. I find extroverts messy as an introvert, and I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with them being messy. But I I just don't unless we're in a programmed activity like let's brainstorm.
yeah.
That for me is and then of course we've
Go,
all
go.
learned there's no judgment when you're brainstorming. So it's the same thing with introverts being with extroverts. Don't give them grace. Don't have judgment. They're literally brainstorming all the time
Yeah.
and realize a lot of stuff they're going to say actually sounds kind of stupid, but that's the way they're processing through it. And from all that, they actually get to a much higher level. So I'm wondering, I don't have those troubles often with voices in my head competing. I have voices in my head, and then I ask the question, okay, what other voices are there? So that
Yeah.
I have a much more practical kind of, and I wasn't like that when I was younger. I was much more, there was more chaos going on in my head. So either I've gotten more comfortable, wiser, stupider. I don't know which it is, but it
Yeah.
works. So that's okay.
Well, no, I've had the chaos for a long time. I used to be a total introvert, never spoke in school up through high school, never a word other than clowning. I could be clowning around a lot. Uh, and
Well, let me ask a hard question right here. Were you being an introvert? So were you taking information and reflecting on it? Or were you a disengaged extrovert?
I was bored.
Because I
I
often,
was totally
yeah,
bored, and I'm going like,
so
I don't
that's,
see the point of memorizing this crap. It's in a book,
yeah.
you know. You know what I
So,
mean?
I saw this with one
I
of
don't
my
see the
kids,
point.
when he was in high school, when he was in high school, he loved writing, he loved, reading. And it was frustrating for him because they would have reading in class. So please read this chapter, and then we'll talk about it at the end of class. And he would be like, "Well, I've read it 5 times. Everyone else reads much slower because it was a common practice one."
Yeah.
And he was getting like D's. And so I said, "Well, let's move you to a different school." And we moved him to an advanced program over with a college, and immediately turned around to A's. And he was moving fast, and it was working at his pace
Oh,
rather
that's
than
nice.
working at
That's
everybody
really
else's
nice.
pace because he was bored. He was completely bored.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you might have always been an extrovert. It's just that
Oh yeah.
you weren't
Wake
getting
up.
stimulated
No,
the
there.
way you
It
wanted
was.
to be.
It was a lot of you're not good enough. Uh, I was at. I got my job at UCLA. I got so intimidated by just the superstars that were there. And I'm like this new assistant professor. I'm a couple of years older than an assistant professor would be because of the Army, but I'm like, I don't belong here. I'd walk through the sculpture garden at UCLA to go to from the parking lot. I go, I don't belong here. I can't say anything. I get into converse lunch, I'd sit with people. They're all talking or yakking away. By the time I get something to say, they're like on three other topics. You know, I'm sitting there, I'm sitting there, you know. Finally, I think when I didn't get tenure, um, and it was clear I wasn't going to get tenure, so I wasn't doing anything economic. I was doing this, my studies and storytelling stuff. And then I just started to relax and I just told my stories and students loved them. And I was, when I wasn't under the weight of evaluation, I just cleared. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
cleared.
do. Absolutely.
And then I got
You're
pissed off when I finally got to Loyola Marymount and they told me, well, you're going to fail because that's a teaching school and you're the worst fucking teacher we ever had. You know,
what? Really?
yeah, that's what they said at UCLA. And then I went and worked with a calligrapher to work on my handwriting. And she taught me some design principles and I sort of abided by them. Central focus, have no more than four or five things, have some contrast. I don't know. She had the emphasis and all this stuff I was learning in calligraphy and design. And I said, well, I'm only going to do stories. I'm going to follow the design principles and I'm going to tell stories in every single class. And I did it. I was teacher of the year. Like in my first, I was a visiting. First of all, they didn't hire me. They only let me replace people on sabbatical. And then
Hmm.
I was teacher of the year at the end of the first semester for the university. You know what I mean? And they
Wow.
voted. It wasn't
Wow.
like New Mexico State. God love you. I hope somebody does. The administrators say, "Well, they'll let Jimmy be the teacher of the year this year. Oh, next year she's
Oh,
been around in a lot of
it
committees.
rotates.
We'll let Sue be the
Yeah.
teacher of
Okay.
the year. And no,
Not based on
Loyola Marymount,
performance.
they had a day and they voted in the cafeteria. People put their ballots in the box, and you were elected, like a presidential race. And
Yeah.
then I remember the first time you're in the big, I think it was the chapel of the school. I think it was some big room. I think felt to me like a chapel. I'm up in the front. They're introducing me. Everybody's cheering. They're saying wonderful things about you. You're going, yeah, my mother's not going to believe this. My mother told me I would fail. She
Yeah.
said, you can't. I was good at English. You're not good at English. I was smart. My dad would say, I'm the genius in the family. You're kind of an idiot. I really, no, I
Oh
don't
my
trust you to do
goodness.
the projects. I will do the projects for your school. Just stay back out of the way. Okay. You're just going to fuck it up, you know? So they couldn't believe when I graduated first in my class. Before that, and when I got teacher of the year, they're going like, no, something's not right here. You know what I mean?
Well, unfortunately, they
And,
didn't see
and
it
that
their
those
perspective
voices
is it
were
wasn't right.
terrible, terrible
Yeah.
voices. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
they kept me on. Now, was I an extrovert? Um, I don't remember ever being one. I just remember being scared shitless all the time.
Well, that's shyness. So if you look at the big five, that means that's a neurosis that was created by, the let me just call it emotional abuse you were going through all the time.
Yeah.
When you're told as a kid that you're an idiot or that, then you believe that because that the trust is there from your parents. So,
And I think then
but
I
once you get to be
realized that
authentic, then you kind of,
yeah, I realized my dad had this narcissistic ego thing where he was pumping himself up all the time. And I realized my mother was just pissed for because the trouble she had with her stepdad. She was no doubt raped by her stepdad and then beaten in the woodshed and all that. I mean, real
wow,
crazy shit.
wow,
And then when my
wow.
dad left her, she just turned to tranquilizers. I mean, that was one mad woman her whole life. Her whole life. I mean, but if you understand her life, you love her and you forget all that. But
Exactly.
and same with him. He was the guy that stole the family Model T or whatever it was and wrecked it on a joyride. He was the guy that went to live in Europe and his brother stayed, was a sheriff, deputy sheriff, and it was just, he was, he thought of himself as the black sheep. They treated him as a black sheep. They cut him out of the will when the grandparents died, the other brothers just said, forget Daniel, forget my dad, I mean, and somehow he was very hurt by that, very hurt.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so anyway, I just
So,
felt
one
I
of
was
what
working hard, but I was not a real intellectual.
well, I mean, once again, that's a great story from the point of view of, the purpose of Fujide and once again, restoring, understanding, polyphony is that, the goal is to be authentic and still be humble enough, but not be obnoxious about it. It doesn't give
Yeah.
you a right to be mean to other people. You have to
Yeah.
endeavor to
Great.
understand that. One thing that struck me about, once again, the first book, the first version of the book, was
Sure.
as I got towards the end, I realized, you have so much history with your work
I
and
do.
success with your work. And I thought, the note I put here, I'll just read it out loud. It was right towards the end of the book in my comments. One option for the book's introduction could highlight David's work. So, this is a revisit to some of your early work, but
Hmm.
then how this is an update to it due to some updated thought and new insights from colleagues, bringing Tanya in and me in it's just saying, well, hey, here's this work that was, it's still incredibly important, but hey, here's some new colleagues who think, have some things that really actually add value to that work.
Hmm.
Because then that
I
also
like it.
opens up, just from a point of view, anybody who's, looked at your work before, and there are lots of people who have, that, hey, here's the update to it. And this is our new ways to apply it. So we're kind
It's
of
a new way
building
to
up your
speak it.
laurels.
It's a new way to tell it. I was wrestling with it yesterday. See, I've written over 45, 50 books, depending on how you
Right,
count the edited
exactly.
ones. And then I've written 150 journal articles, reviewed. But no, they're unreadable because they don't have my voice in them. Because all I'm doing is citing other people's work, synthesizing it, putting it into some analytic frameworks, and it, it's not in academic writing. You don't get to tell your story. That's very recent phenomenon. It was writing in the third person
Hmm.
as if you don't exist. When you submit a manuscript, you can't cite your own work. You have to like have other people cite it. You know what I mean? You have to. You can't get a new idea in because they really don't want a new idea. They say they want a new idea, but they want ideas that their editorial board and reviewers acknowledge. So that means they want old ideas in a new way. It's
Well,
like
I like that.
one new thing in an article. That's it. Not five, not 10, one. So
Yeah,
I'm not in there. And my
yeah,
in-laws would say, I got your book, David, but I don't understand a word of it. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're talking about. There's a lot of citations and charts. And so what I've been doing is like with the tape I sent you, I've been using a notebook LM and put my manuscripts in there and say, okay, and then I'll put my original writing in there. I'll say, okay, here's something I dictated. And then it'll stylize the whole thing to where my father-in-law, if he wasn't dead, he could read it. And my kids and my grandchildren, they go, wow, that's cool. You know what I mean? They would
yeah.
understand. Like, I don't want to write shit that nobody understands. Do you get that?
I
And then
totally
what
get
you're
it.
saying is, by taping it now, that's my words. And then if I hear your story, how to use Vujade in your case, that's your words. Like, I think it's real
Yeah.
important in the intro. It has, yeah, this is me, and I'm going to keep it simple, you
Yeah,
know?
I love, I love what you just talked about there. I love, because it's us being authentic. It's us being. I think it gives perspective and say, hey, those books. Yeah, I've been congratulated for those works, but to your point, it was third person. It was sterile. It was principles. It didn't really have my voice in it. And
Yeah.
this is the kind of, whether you want to say found, correct, you know, it only becomes real for most people unless when you're telling a story. You
I
can't
see
talk
it.
about telling stories. You actually have to tell a story. Both are
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. And I think in the beginning, you tell your story. Tanya tells her story, but it has to come from the heart in a way, and be authentic, but not pseudo
Yeah,
authentic.
no, I totally get it. I mean, my reason for Bouger Day came out of, you know, I think a respect of all these assessments, but realizing that when you start actually really digging deep and working with them, they're not useful for a group of people. Yeah, it's nice fun, self awareness, self reflection, all the previous versions pre Cabo. But when I looked at it and tried to apply it to a team of people and getting people to work together, there was just so many failures and biases and lack of actually doing mathematical thought in it. And so
Yeah.
for my motivation was to say, first off, with one tool, this has got to be fixed. And we ended up throwing out that tool because it literally I don't want to bash these tools. I mean, they were they're the start. They weren't there. We're living on their shoulders, but it
I hear
doesn't.
you.
It just. But they're as you really start to test them, you start to find you know that they don't work, and it puts people in boxes when we don't want to put people in boxes. It's okay to have a general understanding of how we align, but everyone's different, and
Well,
that's kind of where this
that's
all came
important.
from.
That's important. I see well, like my work in Tomorrowland is that we grow up in different rooms and then we meet in the hallways and we forget that we're from different rooms. So we really the number and the pathways that connect just a few rooms is in the thousands. If it gets over 10 rooms, it's in the millions. If it gets over 20, 30
No,
rooms
I get it.
and
I
different
get it.
sites. But yours is the Vuja Day is the same way. You've got like a trillion combinations of these factors, these facets
Just for an individual.
for an
Yeah,
individual.
for
So
two
no
people.
way that
Yeah,
these people are going to be identical. I mean, it'd be very, the probability of scores just lining up exactly. Okay, out of a population of a million, maybe
it's
get 50 that lined up. I don't know, some number,
I don't know yet either. Yeah, it's I
some
mean I can
small
run the
number.
numbers on it, but just I mean for two people, there's literally 973 trillion, not
Yeah, so
not
973
7.85, so
trillion.
trillion for
That's
two people.
but you see how those
It's
dovetail those two
they're exactly
technologies.
the same things. Yeah,
So,
Tomorrowland and Vuja
yeah, I
Day,
mean,
the
your
principles behind it are the
pathways of
same.
experience in life have made you who you are, and some kind of brain thing, some kind of inheritance, whatever. And then you got these X number of trillion facets that are dimensioned something, whatever, however you talk about it. And then I talk about it a little bit differently. And then Tanya's talking about it. Diversity is important. We're all different, but we're all one. We're all one. Human race is one
Agree.
race. We're not just as we're diverse, respect the difference, but don't just focus on the difference. Don't just focus, oh, yeah, he's from France. He's from England. Yeah, we'll always have to factor in he's from France. You know what I mean? It's not like that. That's a pigeonhole.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah, agree.
pigeonholing. So there's something that we're doing that we need to have a finger, need to
It's
put
kind
our
of
fingers on it. The three of us have a facet here that's
it's getting beyond our own biases.
getting
We
beyond our own
all have
biases.
we all have our own bias, and so we look at the world through our eyes, and that's normal. But there's where the check has to come in to realize no one else on the planet sees the world I do, and I have to realize no one else there sees it my way. So
No, not at
how do we
all.
get that connection? You know,
And part of it, Doug, is you would have to step out and say, "This is my story. It's where I'm pa." And I have to step out and say, "Yes, I hear you, and I'm not going to give up my identity, my what is my life purpose. Let's say we each have a life purpose and it's different. And we want the life purposes to um, be in a team, be in an organization, be in a project, right?
be in a
Well,
relationship.
if I'm holding back on my life purpose and you and Tanya are going forward on yours, right?
Yeah, it's not going to work. There's
I'm letting you lose out. If Tanya just holds back, doesn't issue like a full blown story with some drive and emotionality and stuff, that, you know, then we're missing out, and if she's got to uphold that, well, maybe that's wrong. If I say she has to uphold the feminine side, I have to uphold my own feminine side. Each of us do. You know what I mean?
as I do as well. Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. Can't speak for anybody else. you know, 30 some years with my wife. Do I know that woman? Not that well. Not that well. She keeps getting stuff over on me. I tell you, I keep, you know, I say, please, Grace Ann, just let me win an argument once in a while for my
Just for your
ego.
ego? Yeah, I
She
kind
said,
of.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not do that. And she's just, but you're getting honesty and truth. You know what I mean? You're getting love and truth. Maybe not at the same time. I don't know.
The goal is to have it at the same time, but
You're
those are the
getting
magical
both. You're getting
moments. Yeah.
both. Here she is now, two dogs. And I don't jump out and help her. I'm in trouble.
Okay, go do that.
All right.
Can't go in and pay.
She got the dogs in by herself, but
Well,
she got to pay.
well, these
So,
look like puppies here almost. They
yeah,
look
these are,
young.
that's Sparkles. The other
Okay.
one's Cuddle Bear. Where's Cuddle Bear? Over there.
Okay.
Neither one of
Gotcha.
these are supposed to be household dogs, by the way. They're cattle
But
dogs.
but they're okay. But are they spoiled and so they live in the house most
They're
of the time
spoiled
or
and they bark a
perfect?
lot, but they're afraid of everything.
Well, that's not good for a cattle dog. So, oh well.
Well, they need to be trained to be a cattle dog.
Yeah.
They were rescue
Yeah.
dogs. Anyway, we should wrap this up if that's
Yeah,
okay
let's
with
wrap up.
you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the stuff you sent me on Tuesday, video and the idea,
Yeah,
the
just
outline
take a
there.
look and keep
And
it
then let me see how
open.
this all
Keep
kind of
open.
comes together and where there are intersections and then I'll get my comments and then I guess the next step will be let's get Tanya, myself and you just to figure out how do we move forward and work through the
Well, if we
concept.
get the
I had two
stories,
quick.
if we get the stories, I like a moral, and
Okay.
if we if we write them as perfect scripts, I'm not sure that they're defensible to some mythical community for their perfection, but they're not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'd rather. Well, I mean, I think it's also identifiable that if it's just too perfect, it's been restoried too much, or it doesn't
Yeah,
have it. It doesn't come across as authentic.
got it.
I had a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
You sent in to be so we can just wrap up. You had sent something about ISODC. I went to the website. I'm not, I saw Joanne's hasn't been doing well. I don't know the whole background on that, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything for the annual conference. Is there one this year
Oh,
or is it
they
going to be
probably
every other
haven't got it
year?
out yet. They probably still working on it.
Okay.
And
Because
there's
usually last year was May.
yeah, well, fortunately, I don't have to run that show. But
Yeah, exactly. I was
I
just wondering if
think
you
if
knew
you
something
guys
I
want to
didn't.
get famous in Vuja Day, we get an article in that reaches the consultants. It's reaching the people most likely to use and refer it to clients. It's a good avenue just to have something
Yeah.
5,000 words, 3,000 words minimum, and then a few good stories, a few examples, a couple of charts, you know. So we don't have to do
Well,
everything in it, but I think it's a good
I,
outlet.
I wanted to throw out another idea for you, and this isn't an offer yet, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. So Monty and I are going to be at the Association of Talent Development. That's in LA,
Oh,
and
cool.
that goes on May 16th to the 19th, 4 days. We're exhibiting there, so we have a 10 by 20 booth, and
Good.
we're actually we're bringing in Dr. Brian Hardy, who you've met now at Growth OD, in one of these
Uh-huh.
sessions. He's coming. We're going to reach out, I think, to Anastasia. We might reach out to Tom and Olivia.
Yeah, those are good.
I was going to throw out. We haven't figured
Oscar,
out
get
yet. I
Oscar.
don't know what your schedule. We had that Oscar and Ernest as well. We had
Yeah.
is on our list of potentials. Just, because our goal is we want consultants selling actually Vujade and using it within their practice, because then it becomes really powerful. And we want them talking. Our job is we can talk about and have
Yeah.
clients and we do all this all, but it's better to support the community and let them use the tool in their work. So, I mean, if one thing to consider is if you want to come along for that. I don't know if that fits your schedule and we're not bothered if you don't, but I just want
I
to
give
kind of
you a
toss that one
counter
out there for you.
offer. I'll edit a book
Okay.
on
Okay.
applications of Vujade to OD, you know?
Okay.
And what that would
Perfect.
do, see, when you have these guests come in, they're talking about their own thing, you know? They don't know how to integrate it with Vujade, even if they've had the test. So if they're writing a chapter for a book that's about Vujade, they have to talk about their case through the Vujade lens. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you get them. So I'll do that. Take that
Okay.
to Monty. Like, say,
Okay. Yeah.
okay,
No.
we want to invite you to the booth, but we also want to invite you to a special book project that'll come out of by Palgrove or something, you know? And
Okay.
um, there's going to be like a field guide to Vujade with cases, and we know you've taken the Vujade course. Now, hey, can you come up with an example of using it? See, that puts them in your booth in a way that's
Yeah.
powerful. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's my
Thanks.
counter offer.
That's a good counter offer. I like that. Okay.
And
Hey,
that
let
way
me
I'm
let you
doing
guys
my
go. It was
skill
great
as a
chatting.
writer and editor, and their skill is more consulting, you know?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, David.
And that'll be good
Uh,
for them and good for you, you know?
I agree. We're delivering. We have a session next Friday. You, me, and Tanya, supposedly, right? It's the first
Yeah, is it
Friday
the
of the month.
Friday? Well, let's let her rip.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
keep going on what we're doing, and if we get an audience, we'll work with them too.
Okay.
All
Perfect.
right. That's my
Okay. Hey,
proposal, and you can think
thank you.
about
No,
it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think it's a
All
great
right.
idea.
All right. I'm
Okay.
going to
You have a
stop
great
and
week.